So I was trying to figure out on this Kia Sorento how to get an antenna mounted through from the front. We're going to put these little Diamond 400s mounts on the inside lip of the hood, and I was trying to find out how am I going to route the cables through. It's kind of difficult. There's not a lot of easy places to go through the fireboard of the car. So what I did was I started looking for light shine through. Open the hood and come around this way. And it's going to be very hard to see with the camera, but maybe you can get in there and show them. Follow the orange stick down. I saw light going through that crack there through the fender all the way to the hood, and I put a fish stick in. And then what I'll do is over here, I already did the other side exactly the same way, so you can see that this one's already in. Went through perfectly, very easily. Hopefully this one goes just as easy. I just took a little sticker that I had, cut it into a little strip, and because the fish stick is the same size as the SMA end, I just quickly did a little wrap on it just so it can just gently hold on to the SMA connector. And you gotta be careful on the metal of this. I took the molding off in order to expose this crack that I saw light through, and you pop that off with these little plastic clips, and you gotta be careful. The metal is really sharp, as you can tell. I screwed up my finger. So just be careful with the metal. And then if you could slowly fish this in while you film that, I'd appreciate it. Pull it through, and this should go through just as easy as the other one, so long as that sticker doesn't come off. This is bowing a little bit here. I should probably guide it into an area where it's not gonna scrape the cable and the sticker right off. Again, being careful of the metal, because it's like surgery time. There. Yeah, I already hit my thumb with that right now. It's pretty bad. All right, now hopefully that will pull right through. Like butter. There you go. All right, that's enough. Now, you can see over here, came right through. Now I've got an antenna mount on each side of my car. Just got to get the battery cable through, and we're done. I'm gonna drill little holes at the bottom of the door wells, pass it in to the dashboard. From over here, you can see that. I'm gonna get rid of this. I have a mag mount that thankfully I'm gonna be able to get rid of after this. Let's get this out of the way. But you can see down along the door here, I'm gonna go down here with clips, and I'm gonna just pop a little hole through here, bring it through under the dash, and then it'll go over to the radio. I wanted to show you how the Diamond mounts work, so you can see how they're right on the edge of the trunk lip here. But the part that you don't see is underneath here. There's screws here that you have to tighten. There you go. And I have to tighten all those up. There's 4 of them. Kind of a little blurry there in the video, but there's 4 screws. You got to tighten them so that they dig into the paint, because there's a aluminum strip on the other side that forms a ground plane with your hood, so it helps with your radio signal. And yeah, that's how you do that. I got one on both sides, so you can see on each side here we got one. And I measured them out. I just took a screwdriver and marked the position where it was at, so that when I put this one on, it's the exact same spacing, so it looks all nice and symmetrical on the car. Hope you guys enjoy this. It's hot out. And then to get your antennas standing up straight, so they're not all tweaked out, you have different adjustment levels. You got up and down and left and right. And if you do it correctly, you end up, I use a level, and I just try to get it level around all ways. So I can see here, front to back, it's going to be tilted to the front a bit. So I try to lift that up, try to get it balanced out on all sides. It's kind of difficult, but you know, you get it the best that you can. Connectors in, and then do a final tightening of this part where it's level, and then they should both match really nicely. Try to get this nice and level side to side. There you go, right there. That'll keep the antennas from looking tweaked out on the side of the car here. Do the same thing with the other one. Do this with one hand, but for the benefits of you guys, I'm doing it. There we go. That's all in there. Nice. Just make sure that your exit cable goes out to the inside of the car. Usually that's cleaner because you can avoid these things and the wipers. You can come in here cleanly. And for the battery line, we're going to do the same thing. I came through with the fish stick, but I had to find a slightly bigger opening because the SMA connector on the antenna is really small, but I found out that if I fish the stick from the bottom side up, it actually goes straight through there, which is good because it'll have enough room for the connector on the battery, so I don't have to cut it off to fish it through, but it'll work perfectly right there. And of course we tape it up just gently so it'll make it through the crack. And then when we pull it through, I'll guide it through this way, but when I pull it through, it should go right through that with no problem. Hopefully, it'll all fit through here. There we go. Came right through. I pulled a little bit of the insulation, which I will put back into place. It's no big deal, it's just a rubber baffle for vibrations and stuff. That's in there, back into place, and we're good to go. Now we got our battery line in. All right, I got the battery line in. I'm gonna leave enough slack so that I can hook it up to the battery. I need to get some battery terminals and clamp them on there. I've got my fuses. You always want to have your fuses. And then I also rerouted the cable slightly. It was coming in above this bracket, but I changed it and I just kind of fished it through with my finger and pulled it through the bottom because it's a lot cleaner. It goes through this little rubber baffle, which will kind of be a nice little insulator for the actual cable itself. So once this is in place, it'll be a really good grommet for it. Like, get it in here nice and straight. Push this down, and now my battery line has like a grommet. keep water from getting in and all that kind of stuff. So, sorry if it got blurry. I don't have my glasses on, I can't tell if it's in focus. But that looks pretty clean to me. And then I'm going to put the molding back in, and we should be good to go once we hook up the battery. As you can see, I put the molding back on. Everything is nice and clean. All the clips are in place, and the battery cable's ready to go. One thing I wanted to point out is when you route this cable for your diamond mount, make sure that it doesn't have to be a diamond mount, by the way. It could be any brand that's similar. There's a bunch like it, but Diamond's the best in my opinion. This is the 400s. So make sure that you're free and clear of the windshield wipers when they're active and stuff. So you can bring this in this way, and you can put a little cable tie in here with like a sticky back to hold it in place. Just make sure that when your windshield wipers are on, they're not rubbing against it. You don't want to wear the cable out and then have to rerun this thing in the future. Although if you ever did, you could cut the cable, tie the new one to it, and pull it through like a fish tape, and it would pull right through. Just a tip there.
You're gonna have to aim higher than 1 star. Who? You, Eric. You're at least, well, what are we talking about? 1 star? That's what the Peabody movie got, right? Yeah, I suppose I just made that up, but it was a terrible, not a Peabody movie, it was the,
Trying to finish off the install of my ham radio and my Meshtastic devices inside my vehicle. And as you can see, I've crimped on some connectors here. Oh, well, I've done one so far. And then I'm gonna heat this up and shrink the tube around it. But you can see what I've done here. Stripped off just a little bit of the wire. And then I've also removed the nut right here on the battery lug. And that's gonna go on right here like this. Fits perfectly. And then that'll get us power. In routing the cable, you can see that I came up underneath here into this hole where they route the normal battery cables for the car. That way I can close this and I don't have to cut any weird holes or anything, or U's in the side. I mean, you could always do that. You could always use a drill bit and cut a little circular groove on the side to get the wire out. But it's better to just come up from the bottom and then and just route the cable in this way. That way you can close this and it's a much cleaner install and you don't have to modify the vehicle. There, I got both of my ends on. Get those on the battery. Then we'll have power to inside the vehicle. Remember my cable path. Something else I should point out here too is that although I wired the positive up directly to the positive right after the main engine fuse, the negative didn't really have a lot of options to mount it unless I added another bolt to the end of the compression fitting for the battery terminal. That's just a pressure fitting. You crank it down, it holds on to the battery terminal. I didn't want to put another nut on there, so instead what I elected to do was I found a hollow piece on the fender and I used a self-tapper screw and a drill gun and blow all that scrap off. And I screwed it into the fender, making sure I have good conductivity for ground. That's a nice solid connection right there. And that's a direct ground, much like the battery is directly grounded to the car. If you look under there, you'll see this big cable here. That goes to the battery's negative, and it grounds directly to the chassis of the car, so it's kind of the same thing right there. I think this is actually a much cleaner solution. Decided to go into here, which is after the main fuse. That's a 250 amp fuse. So I'm going after the main engine fuse rather than direct to the battery. I already have fuses in line in my cables, but it doesn't hurt to have extra protection. You know, who knows, maybe a short will happen between, you know, between the fuse and the main lug here. So, I mean, at least you have that protection there. So, also I should warn you, when you're using sockets, always use sockets that have a nice solid ball clip, because I already lost a socket. It fell down into the engine. Now I gotta go searching for it. But, you know, these come off pretty easily. This is a cheap adapter. And, you know, you always want to, if you think it's going to fall off, maybe put some tape around it, you know, get some extra security for so you're not losing your sockets in the engine. God knows what it'll clunk around in, but I got to find it. So anyways, I'm going to do the same thing with the other one. Nice and clean. And there's my finished inside wiring. Zip tied it. It's all clean. It's not going to rattle all over the place. It's ready to go. Now I can close the hood and work on the inside. Inside the car, I put a choke coil. And what this does is it makes sure that you don't get any whine from the engine alternator ramping up and down. A lot of people install radios without this, and some cars that don't have really good power filtering. And you get a whine that goes ring, like a wheezing sound as your alternator ramps up and slows down. But this pretty much stops that, and it's a big recommendation on any permanent ham radio install. And it just clips right in line to your regular power, and you just plug it into the main power, and there you go. And as you can see here, with the choke in line and the radio plugged in and the control cable plugged in, my control unit has now got power. All I got to do is clean up this wiring inside the car, find a place to mount the head unit there, and then we're in business. One thing I should mention that I really like is, even though the car is off right now, the radio still has power, and I have a timer set on the radio so that if I forget to turn it off, it'll automatically turn off for non-use after a period of time, and that'll save you from draining your battery. And yeah, that's the way to do it. Finished everything. I got some high temp white tape covering the battery feeds just to hold them in place so that they don't rattle around. Everything is secured. We've got a solid self-tapper ground right into the chassis. Battery cables going through the fender, antennas going through the fender on both sides of the vehicle. Let me show you this side. Got the same thing going on here for the LoRa antenna. And maybe I should get you some light over this way. So we got the LoRa antenna going through the fender, same thing to that side of the vehicle. And then over here, we've got a 2-meter 440 on the same mount, Diamond 400s. And then the battery line's going cleanly in, secured with high temp engine tape, white to match the car. And then I'll show you the inside. Yeah, it's been a pain in the butt to do, but mounting the bracket for the radio under the seat here. I gotta straighten it out a bit, just a little off, but just loosen it and twist it a little. That's where the radio's gonna go. Wiring's gonna go underneath the trim. You can't even see the wiring anymore. The inside is very clean. I've got weatherproof high temp tape that matches the chassis, covering the cable run through, and the radio itself is mounted under the seat. Let me get some light in here so I can show you that. Bam. There's the radio, and that's securely mounted to the floorboard with its bracket. And then I've got my control head up here, cleanly mounted in a perfect position. So it's not in the way of my vision, it's not in the way of my steering, and I can access all the controls, and it looks really nice. So I got a nice clean install. No wires visible anywhere except my silly iPhone charger cable. Perfect visibility. I can reach this very easily. The only thing I need to do is add my mic hook, which I had to get another one because I lost the one that used to go with this mic. And once I get that, I'm gonna have that hook right here. So it'll be very easy to reach and go like this. Radio check, KE6VDW. Oh yeah, I'm really loving the position that this radio's in. Something else I did here, I flipped the way that the cables go on my Diamond. You can see there's notches on both sides. See a little notch right there? You can have the cable exit that way, or you can have it exit that way. And prior, I had it going this way. And when I get a car wash and I take my antennas off of the mounts, I don't want the washing bristles to sweep against the cable. So I want them to be protected by the metal bracket. So I have them routed behind the bracket now. So all those bristles will hit on the front side of it and won't damage the cable. So I think that's a really wise thing to do. Something I learned over the years, and I just forgot to do it the first time, so I did it on both antenna mounts. I can zoom into that one. That one goes behind as well, so they're protected. Well, all the work is done. My radio is beautiful. The install is clean. And I'm sitting here just programming stuff in. There's my 915 megahertz Alfa antenna for my Meshtastic device. And there is my 2 440 Diamond antenna and my FTM-350 Yaesu radio, scanning away and sounding beautiful as can be. Underneath of my seat is the main unit, and the head unit is mounted here. No visible cables except for that little control cable loop and my mic cable, but that's about it. The Meshtastic unit is mounted inside the glove box, which I'll get to later. And that's my alien node.